Hi, you're watching Vantage Point. I'm very, very glad because for so long I've missed discussing this topic, which is about finding justice and making the world a better place. And the initiative can even start from Kuala Lumpur because we do have the Kuala Lumpur War Crimes Tribunal. And for this time around, it's the second sitting. It's going to happen soon, and it's a crime of torture and war crimes. We're going to look at Iraq. We're going to have testimonial or sitting with a Guantanamo detainee himself. I'm made to understand that he's a very eloquent speaker. I've gotten my guest for today to promise that I will get a half an hour sit down with this person. But before that, I have to introduce Dr. Zulaiha Ismail, the Executive Director of Perdana Global Peace Foundation, or PGPF, also on the Board of Trustees of the KL Foundations to Criminalize War. This is a very big effort that we in Malaysia has helped to galvanize in the big way. So I'm very glad that Dr. Zulaiha is here. We're going to try to sum up a lot of global issues, but we're going to look at it from this prism of bringing to justice people who contributed or have even committed war crimes. So in this respect, we have talked at length on Astro Awani about the first sitting, but maybe we can recap a bit, Dr. Zulaiha, and then you can propel us forward into the second sitting.
Yeah, we are happy to report that Kuala Lumpur staged the first ever Tribunal of Conscience in November last year, where we held Bush and Blair accountable for war crimes in Iraq. Okay, and while this tribunal, you can't take them behind bars, but at least we feel we have succeeded in telling people in Malaysia and the world, where we have a big group of supporters, that Bush and Blair deserve to be prisoners of war instead. Okay, what we are saying is that Bush and Blair, while they may still be free to roam, we'd like people to know that wherever they are, they may be afraid that somewhere, someone may throw a shoe at them, okay? And they are exposed for the war crimes which they willfully committed. We're not talking about crimes of passion. We're talking about willful commission. Okay?
It's premeditated, it's strategized, and it was carried out.
And
now we want accountability and responsibility. And it's always sometimes because of how the information network flows and how the media works, that sometimes we think we have been exposed and we know almost everything there is to know. But what strikes me even from the first sitting, that if we go through the micro and minute details, it's still like a wall of tsunami that hits me. And I work in the media. So many things that I still don't know. And when we listen to the deliberations, and I'm really looking forward to interview the Guantanamo detainee, as you have told me before the show. But before we go there, so what would the second sitting do this time around?
Okay, this second sitting would show what Bush, this time we're focusing on Bush and his 7 associates, including Cheney, Rumsfeld, Alfred Gonzalez, and John Woo, because they willfully committed torture as part of their policy plan. In fact, Gonzalez wanted to grant legitimacy to torture and not to allow for prosecution of those held accountable. John Yu went further and he said torture should be allowed because if it protects national interest. So you have this kind of thinking. So what we are saying is these are crimes of calculation that we have to look at, that we have to explore, and fortunately for us, we have these case witnesses. We had to reduce. As you know, the tribunal has interviewed many people, but we had to reduce the numbers, otherwise the tribunal would carry on for months. So we are picking on a core of 4 or 5 people and perhaps some expert witnesses to tell us what actually took place. Okay.
I'll go to the detail later, more in depth when we interview Professor Nijar online. But before we go to the first commercial break, how do you look at how this is galvanizing perception? Because this is not about the legal side only. This is about morality, and this is about conscience, for example. So how do you see this effort making a change on this front?
We hope that this initiative in Kuala Lumpur, it has been done in other places, will move forward because we are getting enough support. For example, we got support from Germany, we got support from Norway, where they have translated our extempore judgment to share with the rest of the world, to translate to German, etc. In Norway, and of course in the Middle East, we have had very good response from the media there, because they want to know what's happening. And after all, this tribunal is a response to what has gone wrong with world governments and world bodies, because they appear to be condoning war when in fact they are they should be stopping it. Okay, and if I may say so, while everybody talked about the Nuremberg Tribunal, okay, it was a milestone where, but to my mind, the Nuremberg Tribunal right now for these superpowers it was only an inspiration. They still went ahead. Okay, and if we talk today, especially in the case of this charge this time, we're talking about humanitarian law, and humanitarian law has only one universal yardstick. Yet, the superpowers like America choose to ignore as and when it pleases them.
Okay. Thank you for making that point, because that's just nice for me to go to the first break. But once we are back, we'll try to go to Professor Nijar, the Chief Prosecutor of the KL Tribunal, and then we'll look more at what's going to happen this time around after this break.
Every Wednesday.
So Lina, what's your dream house like?
My dream house, I don't know, I've not given much thought to it, but I know that I want a big house, but not that big, a little bit smaller, probably some trees surrounding it, and it has got to be by the beach. But I need some water feature. Do I need water feature when it has got to be by the beach? But I don't think so. Maybe I need a pond. Probably
what's your dream house like?
In Realty, Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. on Astro Awani.
Keputusan Putra Brand Awards Pilihan Rakyat Malaysia telah tiba, dan kami dengan bangganya mengumumkan anda telah memilih Astro sebagai penerima anugerah Best of the Best. Sokongan anda menyemarakkan lagi semangat kami, dan sebagai penghargaan, semua pelanggan dijemput untuk menikmati lebih 130 saluran mulai sekarang hingga 6 Mei. Terima kasih Malaysia.
People are going to die in some kind of tragedy.
Hanya di Astro Citra. Untuk melanggan, sila tekan butang merah di saluran 130.
Hi, you're still watching Vantage Point, and I'm still here talking about a very, very important topic, which is we want to criminalize war. We want to punish those who make this conscious decision to really bring suffering to a lot of people. And we already seen the first sitting. We're going to see the second sitting of this War Crimes Tribunal in Kuala Lumpur. And we do have Professor Gurdel Nijar on the line. He is the Chief of Prosecutor for KL Tribunal. And if I can have a Professor now online. Hi, Professor.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, I'm
Good
fine.
morning.
Professor Nijar, if you can alert the audience as to what can we look forward to for the second sitting this time around.
Yes, the first sitting was we charged Bush and Blair and got them convicted for carrying out war crime against peace, which means they waged a war without the authorization of the UN Security Council. Now, in the course of the war, there has now been shown to be tremendously horrendous acts of torture committed against people who were never charged, the bulk of whom were delivered by bounty hunters, and have since been released. And so for this torture, this is a violation of international law, because international law forbids torture under the Torture Convention and the Geneva Convention. So we are going to charge all the key White House leaders, from the President to the Defense Secretary to the Vice President, and their lawyers and advisors for conniving in the commitment of torture and violation of the Geneva Conventions against a whole host of detainees.
Professor, are you referring to what happened in Iraq itself, and also for the Guantanamo detainees, for example? And if you can please give us a sample of eyewitness which we have heard at this tribunal on that.
Yes, they arrested people, some of them from Pakistan, then brought them to Afghanistan, detained them there, then transported them to Guantanamo Bay, a prison there which was constructed in a hurry, which is outside, which is in the southern tip of Cuba.
Yes.
And they also arrested people and detained them in Abu Ghraib in Iraq.
Yes.
Now we are bringing forward witnesses, British citizens who were arrested, Iraqi citizens who were arrested, and they are going to testify as to the treatment they were given in Guantanamo, in Abu Ghraib, as well as the prisons in Afghanistan. And we're going to have 3 key witnesses, possibly more statutory declaration, but 3 key witnesses. 1 a lady and 2 gentlemen.
Okay. We've heard about some testimony to this before, about waterboarding, about deprivation of the company of other human beings, deep isolations. Are these also within the case notes that you have seen?
Yes, indeed. In fact, some of it has been even much worse than that. Jamila, for example, we are going to, the prosecution is going to produce evidence which shows that, you know, they for example, they brought Jamila's daughter, and then they hooded both of them, and then they said they're going to kill her, and then they hooded the mother, and then a shot rang out on the basis, and this is to scare her into believing that they had killed the daughter. I mean, this kind of brutality. And then Mozambique, for example, they transported him from Afghanistan to Guantanamo, which is, as I said, just near the United States. Under horrendous conditions, they shackled him. He could not move, because the moment he moved, he was shackled leg and foot, and transported blindfolded, you know, in this long journey. Disorientated completely because he didn't know where he was. He could not move because the moment he moved, the shackles were cut into his hands and feet. And then he was subjected to this terrible treatment. And he was warned that they were going to, brutalize his family, whom they had access to, and so on. So they drove people mad, you know, because of the treatment. And this is in clear violation of international law.
Professor Nija, you mentioned bounty hunters. We have seen reports, even from the Western media, about how private contractors, so-called security contractors, were the one heavily engaged, because specifically for that, because they can operate outside the ethics of a full military body, for example.
Yes, in fact, that is why actually we are charging also the lawyers, because the lawyers were complicit in giving advice that, you know, if they did it outside of the United States, and if they contracted it out to private contractors, if they, you know, a whole host of legal advice was given by Attorney General's chambers and very senior officers to say that, well, if you do this, we are not bound by the Torture Convention, we are not bound by the Geneva Convention, and that you can do it with impunity. Now, so this is why we are also charging the lawyers. It's very unique, but it was done in Nuremberg, where lawyers and judges who carried the assassin's dagger in their black robes of judges and lawyers. And we want to, for the first time, a long time after Nuremberg, we want to bring these people to justice as well.
Thank you so much, Prof. Nija. I do hope to bring you to the studio so we can deliberate a bit more intimately about this. But for now, thank you so much, and I'll see you at the sitting itself. Thank you so much, Prof. Nija.
Thank you very much, Encik Kamarul.
Okay, I'd like to go back to Dr. Zulaiha now, and those are quite disturbing things. Even if there are youngsters watching this show, I wouldn't want them to really be subjected to the thought of even what has been said. But this is the reality, and we have to confront this. We are taking the responsibility on behalf of humanity here.
Yeah.
So, what do you hope for this second sitting to achieve, from your standpoint?
It will bring this reality, this knowledge that the United States has participated with impunity in devastating a country. Now it brings to the personal issue, and then you will see, as Prof. Nija said, a lady talking about how she was subjected to the torture. And these are individual cases, okay? They will be talking and saying this is what. And to be quite honest, they themselves are under threat of what could happen to them. Many of them are talking about there's no witness protection program for them when they are anywhere, because they speak so much about war crimes that that someone may do something to them. So they will never live freely. So why should we allow these perpetrators themselves to walk freely and make money while talking about global governance? You know?
I get the point entirely, and I promise you, even if the chance is given for me to sit down with these people, I would totally refuse to do it on the basis of ethics and humanity, because we at Awani hold ethics and humanity very high. I've got to go for the last break, but once we come back, how do we propagate this thinking, this culture to stand up and do the right thing? Maybe one of the side objectives which we want to achieve, even for our very own society. I'll discuss more with Dr. Zulaiha after this break.
I'm coming home, I'm coming home. Tell the world I'm coming home. Let the rain wash away all the pain of yesterday. I know my kingdom awaits, and they've forgiven my mistakes. I'm coming home.
Kesemua 31 perlawanan secara langsung hanya di Astro. Liputan UEFA Euro 2012 di Astro dibawakan untuk anda oleh Maxis, penaja penyiaran utama.
Sudahkah sekiranya awak menjadi isteri saya?
Adakah dia benar-benar untukku?
Dia nak kahwin. No, siapa yang nak kahwin lagi sih?
Lupakan saja, Jeffrey.
Dira Abu Sahar dalam Kau Untukku di Astro Box Office Movies tayangan hebat. Jumaat. Ikuti detik-detik persiapan majlis akad nikah awal dan syah.
Nervous tak?
Nervous.
Nervous sangat.
Saat-saat penuh debaran dan kenangan.
Harap-harap semuanya berjalan lancar.
Perkembangan setiap jam. Mula seawal 9 pagi, tanggal 4 Mei ini. Hanya di Astro Awani. Berita segenap dimensi.
You know, we've tried to go down to the level of...
I'm already starting with Dr. Zulaiha, and this is a very good topic, but sometimes I wonder, you know, we have so many events in this country, but the word in Malay is penembusan. The word in English, I would like to think about heightened state of awareness.
Awareness, that's
and,
right.
What would be your view on it? Because we don't want KL to be home to such great initiative. A lot of our key people are involved in trying to fight for justice, but the masses are not really aware and they're not involved. So I do understand that you are also very interested to talk about a series of dialogue on the sideline to
That's
also
right.
move the consciousness across.
That's true. You see, Perdana Global Peace Foundation is the sister organization of the KL Foundation. So we are taking this opportunity, and because we are getting eminent foreign observers to come here, people who resigned as Assistant Secretary of the United Nations in protest against the war of Iraq. These are the people who will be here. So we're taking advantage to have them to speak in a dialogue session. We don't have too much time, but in the evenings, immediately after the tribunal takes a recess, then we will have this session, and we invite anyone to come and talk. Because, the tribunal looks at criminalizing the people who are guilty, at getting them to take accountability for what they did. But now we want to say, what's next? What's happening to Iraq? We are behaving as though Iraq is back to square one.
It's not.
But it is a destroyed economy. Abysmal levels of survival taking place. So we need to say what needs to be done. And we have, for example, we have Miss B. Kentan and Dirk Adrianson of the Brussels Tribunal. They have been very, how would you say, they've documented evidence all about what's happening in Iraq. B is going to talk about children of Iraq, what has happened. Nobody talks about the effects of depleted uranium. Nobody talks about what's happening, children, sexual mutilation that happens because these people were exposed to depleted uranium and cluster bombs and so on. Then Dirk is going to talk about something which is very important. He calls it educide. Killing of or the doing away of education and the academic community who were killed by extrajudicial assassinations and so on. So the academic community has either run away or they are incapacitated. So they will talk about that. Then on Tuesday we will have Naji Haraj, a former diplomat who is very much respected in UN circles. He's going to talk about accountability together with Hans von Sponeck. Who is accountable? After this, America leaves Iraq and then expects that, but they've already secured all the oil contracts. So they are all right. But the country isn't, and there's a lot of what would you call it? The sectarian violence is so severe, and we don't know what's happening. Iraq never had a Shia Sunni problem, but now they don't trust each other. That's very sad. Then we'll be talking about, which unfortunately our tribunal will not have a chance to look at, economic sanctions as a war crime. If we all know the UN allowed for these economic sanctions, and almost more than 500,000 children were killed because of that. In fact, that is a war crime itself. And that is what Dennis Halliday and Chandra Muzaffar will be talking about.
The focus on Iraq is very clear, but I do know PGPF will always have in its heart the Palestinian issue. How do you hope to leverage this also? Because we can also not be looking there, because it does have connections.
Yes, inshallah, we hope that our next tribunal, and this is what Tun Mahathir would like to see, that we will have a tribunal on war crimes committed by Israel and its ally USA. So we hope, and with that we really want to look at it and see, why has the world stood by as bystander while this killing and maiming and destruction is taking place?
Thank you so much, Doctor. It's always enlightening. No matter how much I think I've read and I've heard and I've saw about these issues, you will always give me new things to consider. Thank you so much for that, and I hope the audience have the same feeling. And don't forget, if you're interested about this, which you must be interested, there's no other way to say this, because this is not only for us, this is for global humanity to fight for a better world. So Yayasan Al-Bukhari, go and Google PGPF. They will have all the details there of who's going to speak when and what's going to happen. And I'll see you there. Thank you so much for watching Vantage Point.
Thank you. Thank you, Kamarul.